Okay, welcome. Geez, it's been a long, short year so far, but here we are again, continuing. This is our second year of giving webinars on building and construction topics. And thank you for tuning in on Zoom. Also, thank you for tuning in on Facebook Live. If you're around, don't have anything to do, or you're interested in this topic about waterproofing, if you're on Facebook, the photo that I posted this morning is of a condo, high-rise condo, walkway, balcony, and their waterproofing failed and resulted in concrete spalling on the ceiling of the floor below. So welcome. This series was put together to help building owners, property managers, and homeowners, developers, contractors, whoever is interested. Want to introduce you to Martin Pea. He's the back-end guy operating the IT, and he's going to help with the questions at the end. So hopefully you have questions. Please ask them. Let's go right through this. Property managers of condos or shopping centers, we're inviting you to tune in also. I was visiting the Millennium Tower in San Francisco. I was there last month, in fact, and the building's sinking. So it's under repair now, and I'm actually going to give a webinar about that subject probably in June or something. So the topic today is waterproofing failure prevention. And you know, whether you're from Kaka'ako or Kansas, North Shore or Nevada, San Diego or San Antonio, Pupukea or Portugal, or parts unknown, welcome. We have people who are actually attending not only from Hawaii, from different parts of the United States, and also we have some people from around the world. So welcome. We're broadcasting from Honolulu, Hawaii, and we're talking about waterproofing, which affects any building, regardless of where you are, whether you're in Hawaii, in the United States, or in Portugal or France. It's pretty much the same. So the question is, waterproofing, what is it? Well, it's basically a process of making a structure waterproof or water resistant. So that's the simple definition. And I'm going to be talking about the differences in locations of where the waterproofing is used. You might ask, well, you know, is paint waterproofing? Well, what is the difference between paint and waterproofing? So basically, the difference is the paint acts as protecting a structure, as you know, and waterproofing does the same thing, but the waterproofing is actually a thicker type of material. It's longer lasting, and it's used in different locations. So let's say you have a below grade wall, you have to use waterproofing instead of paint, because paint is not going to last. So that's the difference. There is waterproofing paint, but mainly going to talk about the waterproofing that's used in locations that I'm working with, and such as roof, walls, walkway, floors, stairs, and parking decks. These are the main locations or components of a building that need waterproofing. Now, when we talk about a roof, let's say the building is flat. Okay, so you could have what's considered waterproofing or waterproofing membrane on the roof, or it could be some other roofing material that's not necessarily waterproofing per se. So aside from the roof, there's walls of the building that could be waterproof rather than painted. It's very costly though. It's like 3 to 4 times the cost of paint. But mainly, I'm going to be talking about your walkways, your floors, your stairs that are exposed to the weather, rain, sun, wind, and then also parking decks. As you know, there's high-rise condos with concrete structures, shopping centers, office buildings that have huge parking decks, and some are waterproof and some are not. And I'll be explaining those components as we go through the webinar. So let's talk about the different types of waterproofing. There's many different types of waterproofing. In addition to the ones that I'm mentioning here, there's polyurethane, cementitious coating, EPDM rubber, thermoplastic, rubber asphalt, bituminous membrane, and PVC membrane. And you may ask, what the heck are you talking about? I don't understand all this mumbo jumbo, but let me explain in detail. And this presentation is basically waterproofing 101. We don't get into specifics, but there's different types for different applications. As I mentioned before, you could have a parking deck, you could have a wall. If you have below grade, you use a different type of waterproofing. But basically, let me explain these words to you. The polyurethane is actually a synthetic resin, and commonly called a thermoplastic a polymer. Cementitious coating is a coating made out of cement based product. EPDM rubber, that's a synthetic rubber, and the EPDM stands for ethylene propylene monomer. I can't even pronounce it, but that's one. Thermoplastic is actually synthetic resin. The rubber asphalt is like, your car tire, that kind of rubber. Bituminous membrane is actually it's containing bitumen or coal byproduct, and bitumen is the liquid that binds asphalt together. So if you driving on the road, the asphalt contains bitumen product. Okay, so without getting too technical, and then the PVC membrane, PVC is polyvinyl chloride, and it's a thermoplastic polymer. There's PVC in sprinkler irrigation pipe, but that's the kind of material. So as you can see, there's all these different products to help protect a building, and there's different manufacturers. There's different pros and cons for every product, and it normally depends on the architect and engineer when they're specifying the type of material. So all these buildings going up, these brand new buildings in Kaka'ako, they have different products of waterproofing that's used for different applications and different locations. So your walkway and your stairs may have a different type of product than your parking deck, let's say. There's pedestrian walkway where it's not vehicular. So the parking deck, cars always drive over. So the use is different. So is it going to be an area where cars are driving over? Is it going to be an area where people are walking? So the types of waterproofing may be different for the application. Yeah. So basically, that's the main types, and there's a whole bunch of other types, but these are the main ones to be concerned about. Now, what is the expected useful life It could be, 3 years, 5 years, 7, 10 years or more. The key to this is you got to look at the manufacturer's data and what warranty. So if the manufacturer says our product, if applied correctly, will last 5 years, then that's what you go by. Okay. I've seen some products that were put on a parking deck and the warranty is 5 years, but 10 years later, it's still in good shape. So it all depends on the exposure to the elements, the wind, rain, salt air, sun, and that kind of thing. And also what the use is. And I've seen waterproofing where it's a 5-year warranty and after 2 years it's shot. Why? Because they have trash dump trucks driving over it and the weight of the trucks start damaging the material, or in some cases it could be installed incorrectly. Okay, 7 years is kind of on the high side. The 10 years is on the high side as well. The norm to me is 5 years, but then some products after 5 years or right before the 5-year mark, you have an inspection done by the manufacturer's rep. If he comes in and looks at it and says, hey, you got a few touch-ups here and there, we can extend your warranty another 3 years or 5 years. Oh, okay, that's good. So remember that what I'm talking about now is all surface waterproofing on parking decks, walkways, and things like that. It's not below grade. Below grade waterproofing is you have a wall, okay, like a basement of a parking area. So you drive in and your car's parked in the basement. That's a retaining wall and it's below grade. It's below the soil grade. On the opposite side, you can't see it because it's covered up with dirt and landscaping. So if you don't have waterproofing or the waterproofing failed on the dirt side of the wall, right, then that's a problem because then you're going to have water going through the wall and you got water infiltration conditions. When water goes through the wall, it starts corroding the reinforcing steel and the steel expands and it causes spalling. The Florida building that collapsed had this problem where it had failed waterproofing. Okay, so if you're interested in some of my interviews about the Florida building collapse, you can go to our website and I'll give you the link at the end. What else do we need to talk about? Well, the expected useful life, this is in general normal conditions. If the conditions aren't normal, then the lifespan decreases dramatically. Okay, and before I talk about some more about that issue, this is an image of proper installation specifications. So what is good application? A good application is important. How do you know if it's a good application or not? Well, there's criteria such as inspection, weather conditions, certification of applicators, and warranties. So in this example, there's actually 6 layers of waterproofing, which is the whole waterproofing system. Okay, and I took this from a manufacturer. I don't want to name the actual manufacturer, but this is just an example. I like this image, so I kind of took it from their website. Now, the proper installation specs is critical. So when you're having a waterproofing job done, let's say they're gonna either a brand new building or you have an existing building, high rise, parking deck or shopping center, and it's coated already, but you want to recoat it. Okay, so the first thing is you have somebody, an engineer, construction manager, or the product rep, or even the contractors that's bidding, first do an inspection. Okay, so this is before any work's done. they're inspecting it and they're giving you a report. Oh, I think the condition is good or the condition is bad. We can't coat over it. We have to strip it off. In some cases, a product is just failing and you have to scrape it off to bare concrete. In some cases, they already have 2 layers and another layer wouldn't work. Okay, so it's a pre-inspection. Okay, also, when they're actually applying the waterproofing product, the weather conditions are very important. So in other words, if it's raining, you can't do the work. Okay, even if it doesn't rain, but there's a high humidity or there's a lot of moisture in the air, it doesn't make sense to apply the waterproofing because it may not stick properly. Okay, so the weather conditions are important. Also, the certification of applicators. Now, that's the contractor doing the work. If they're not properly certified by the manufacturer, then you may not want to use them. Or if the manufacturer does not have a certification process, then, to me, that's like, you should question that. Ask the contractor, you're going to apply this XYZ product. Do you know what the specs are? Have your workers gone through training to know how to apply it? You want to be sure. The other thing is the warranties. So you have your product rep come out, manufacturer's rep, and it could be the sales guy that's certified to be an inspector, but you want that person to come out before the job starts to look at the condition. You want that same person to be out there during the application process while they're still doing the work. And then when the work's completed, you want that person to come out and look and say, okay, it looks good. Now, if you just call that person to come out at the end of the job, how does he know whether they applied it when the deck was wet or the walkway was a little wet? And later on, if it fails, he's going to say, well, this is what the cause was. And sorry, we won't honor your warranty because it's apparent that they applied this product, the 3rd layer, when it was wet, or they didn't let that layer dry enough before they applied the next layer. Okay, so you want to be sure that you involve everybody. That's the contractor may say, oh, you don't need to call the guy, he's too busy, we'll just keep working. No, sometimes I just stop the job and tell them, if the guy can't come out here, then you have to stop working until he comes out. So they don't like it, but too bad, because at the end of the day, I want to have the warranty that I can pass over to my client. And, we work on large condo projects, shopping centers, and that type. So we can't have even a small failure. And sometimes you're going to have these little sections where it doesn't stick and they need to fix it. Well, then at least they can come back and fix it under the warranty. Okay, so very, very important. Let's see. Okay, so what I mentioned to you, the waterproofing, proper waterproofing, it actually protects the concrete and protects the building. When you have failed waterproofing, now it leads to damages and structural damages. That's why you want to have periodic inspections, and those are required under the warranty too. So even if it's not required, so let's say your warranty is for 5 years, you don't wait until the 5th year or before the 5th year to have somebody inspect it. You should inspect the areas at least yearly, because if you find areas that need to be fixed, then fix it. Okay, so for instance, you have a condo building that has waterproofing on their walkways and stairways, and it could be an apartment building too. When people move in and move out, they use these dollies or hand trucks, and a lot of times, especially when they're going downstairs, the hand trucks nick the nosing of the stairs, and when that happens, the waterproofing gets damaged and you see bare concrete, or they scrape the walkway. And we see that a lot. In large parking decks, sometimes those big trash trucks, they go pick up the trash dumpster, and it weighs a lot, and they're not really that careful, and when they drop that dumpster, it could damage the waterproofing. The older type dumpster has metal wheels, and if they drop it from a truck, there you go, your waterproofing is damaged. You got exposed concrete. So if you look on the image on the top, this is of a parking deck that had waterproofing, and the waterproofing failed so bad that you could see areas of bare concrete. And if you see like reddish areas, that's actually the primer of the waterproof system. So when we see that, it's like, hey, you don't even have any top coating at all. It worn off, and now we see the primer. So this deck hasn't been fixed for like over 20 years, which is way past the lifespan. So what happens when you have bare concrete? When it rains, well, water goes through the concrete, and if there's cracks, water goes through the crack. And if you look on these are two images. The top image is the top of the parking deck. The bottom image is the underneath ceiling of the same parking deck. And as you can see, you see all those like brown lines. That's actually reinforcing steel. It's corroded rebar. So what happens is the water penetrated through the deck and kind of sat there and hit the reinforcing steel and started corroding the steel. When the steel corrodes, it expands, and guess what? It starts chipping the concrete. So you got pieces of concrete falling down, right? Falling onto cars, on people's heads and all that. And you look up, you go, wow, this doesn't look too good. Yeah. So what happens is it gets so bad that now to fix it, they have to demolish sections of the parking deck. And when they start jackhammering to get to the rebar and dig out the damaged, deteriorated concrete, guess what? They ended up going through the top of the parking deck and making a hole because it's the condition of the concrete is so bad. So this is a lesson that you cannot let your walkways, parking decks, stairs, and all that get so bad of a condition that it leads to concrete spalling. And what happens when this concrete spalling, it gets really bad, then it leads to structural damage. And you don't want that, because to repair something small is relatively inexpensive. But if you're talking about major repairs, it could run millions and millions of dollars. Now, does a condo building, apartment building owner, or shopping center owner have millions and millions of dollars to, fix their parking deck and walkways and all that? Probably not, right? And you didn't even want to go there because that's negligence. To even end up with a condition as seen in the photo is negligence on the part of the owner or property manager. Okay, so that's probably the gist of what I have to say. So we're doing good in time. What you miss, I gave probably at least 12 webinars last month. No, sorry. It was two webinars per month. Gee, I can't count. So probably 22, 23 webinars on building and construction. So you missed all those if you didn't attend, but it's not too late, because if you go to our website, it's askbuildingexpert.now.site. And there's all these webinars that you can watch on demand. It's like a free Netflix and for building and construction topics. So help yourself, watch 1, 2, or all 25 of them. And the various topics are interesting, and it pertains to different building components and different subject matters, such as building codes and permits, contractor licensing, roofing, hurricane ties, cast iron drain piping, concrete spalling. There's a whole bunch of other ones that you can select. So we welcome you to watch those. And if you have any questions while you're watching, email them to me or give me a call and I can help you. What's coming up? We got webinar on construction warranties and developer transition. If you're buying a new condo or you're a realtor selling a condo, this is very important as far as what happens when the developer gets out and there's a transition period where they're turning over all the documentation and everything to the condo association. And, it's very important because what happens is the condo association takes over the developers out of the picture in one scenario, and it's hard to get answers. In another scenario, there's developer connections that still sit on the board, and then, you may have issues, especially if you have construction defects. Where do you go to get it fixed? How are you going to get it resolved? Okay, so there's in our website, there's a bunch of topics coming up that you can look at. So that's a good thing. We make it easy for you. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Our email is listed here, lanceluke@hawaiibuildingexpert.com. Phone number 808-422-2132. If you're calling from a foreign country, you're going to have to pay for the call because it's not toll free. And then our website is askbuildingexpert.now.site. But feel free to email. I get more emails than calls, and I welcome emails from all over the United States and even different countries. It's nice to be able to help people and answer their questions. Now, I want to open it up to Q&A because we got some time. So I'll turn it over to Martin and see if we have any questions that came over on our Zoom platform. Maybe you also want to check Facebook, see if there's any questions or comments on there.
Yeah, Lance, I'm here, and this is your favorite part, so I know should get right to the questions. Yeah, we have our first question here. Hopefully, you can hear me all right.
Yeah, you're coming in good.
Good. You talked about the waterproofing of parking decks, but I have seen most of parking decks for shopping centers with bare concrete. Is it because it is not really needed?
Okay. Sometimes it may look like bare concrete, but it may not. If they have a waterproofing system that's the color of concrete, so it could be waterproof. But if you're certain that it's just bare concrete, and I've seen, bare concrete as well, it's the situation where the owner or developer, when they built the building, didn't want to spend the money. And I don't think any building expert would tell the developer or a building owner, you have an exposed stairway or exposed parking deck, you should save money and not put waterproofing. Okay, I don't do that. When I go out to inspect properties and these buildings and there's no waterproofing, I tell them, you got to put waterproofing on you're lucky that your concrete, lasted this long. And they're like, well, it's been up for 30 years and we haven't had any problem. Sometimes I go, well, let's go take a look at other areas of your building. And then what happens is we walk around the building and we see water stains, leaks, concrete spalling. And I said, this is indicative of you don't have any waterproofing because your water is penetrating through your parking deck, your slab. Like, oh, I didn't see that. So I don't think there's any situation where any professional architect or engineer or construction manager would tell their client, you don't need to waterproof. I think they're all going to say, you do need waterproofing. And then, the flack that we get is, well, we didn't have money to do it. And say, well, either you're going to spend money now to do it, or you're going to spend money later, fixing your building. And then in addition to fixing your spalls, you still got to put waterproofing. So, and this applies to parking decks as well as walkways or even lanais, balconies. If there's no waterproofing, then it's an issue. If you have carpet on your lanais, that's not good. If you have tile, that's not good either, because the grout could be porous and water seeps in. And now you got this layer of water sitting there between your concrete slab and your tile. And that could cause spalling. I've seen that before numerous times. So in answer to the question, yes, there should be waterproofing. The reason why they didn't do it is to save money, or maybe they thought that they didn't need to at the time, and we'll monitor it. And if we feel that we need to waterproof it, then we'll certainly do that. Also, in addition to bare concrete, you may have seen parking decks and walkways where the waterproofing that was there is worn down or needs to be fixed. So that's another issue too. So just be aware of those things. There's many condo buildings that have failed waterproofing and they're way behind in getting it fixed. So just word of advice to get those things fixed before it gets worse. So hopefully that's a long drawn out answer to the question.
Great answer, Lance. Thank you. The next question here we have looks like from a condo person. It says, my condo building hired a contractor 2 years ago to waterproof our swimming pool deck. But after 6 months, we saw areas bubbling up, and now we are still trying to resolve the problem. What is your advice?
Well, initially, before I give advice, I'd ask questions such as, who did the work? What kind of product did they use? Did anybody inspect it? Inspect the deck before? Did somebody inspect it during the application? Did the material rep inspect it after? Who signed off on it? What were the conditions during the application? So, and sometimes they go, we don't know, we weren't around or whatever. So I tell them, look, the failure could be that when it was installed, it was not installed properly, or let's say the deck was wet and they just installed it, or the temperature wasn't right and they installed it, or maybe the material was bad, the building material that they used, the waterproofing. So that could be a situation. Or maybe they put the waterproofing on and there was no maintenance on it, which is probably highly unlikely, but that could be. So normally it's either a workmanship issue or a material issue. And in most cases, it's a workmanship issue. All the waterproofing failures that I've inspected, probably 99% of them were workmanship issues, application problems, and not the material. So that just goes to show you that there's problems with workmanship issues. So it's very important to follow the specifications. So back to the question, I would bring an expert out and not listen to necessarily the contractor or anybody else. So hire a third-party expert, come in, inspect it, and advise you on what to do. And I've had that role many times, and sometimes I even advise the owner to, let's take samples out, cut the material out and send it to a lab and analyze it and see what's going on here. What happened? Sometimes the deck wasn't clean enough and there's still dust, and they put the waterproofing on and then there was no good sealant on it because there's too much dust in the way, and the product didn't grip, so you add more layers on and then builds up and now it doesn't work at all. I've had one situation where the product that was applied to the pool deck had a chemical interaction with the chlorine, and it's like nobody thought to ask the contractor whether there was some interaction with that particular product. They should have used a different product. But I think what happened was the owner said that they were going to install a salt water system and not have a chlorine, but then they didn't do that. So anyway, the thing got it to be a mess. So in answer to your question, get an expert out there, get another opinion, and take it from there. Hopefully the contractor is willing to work with you. If you guys hired the cheapest contractor that was not certified to apply that particular product, then you have another problem. So, which leads me to a side issue, is that you may not necessarily hire the cheapest contractor for your job, right? Just because they're cheap doesn't mean that they're going to do a good job. Now, there's contractors that are the lowest bidder and they do good work. So fine, that's good, but it's like you get what you pay for. So be careful. If you get 3 bids and 2 bids were 50,000 and 52,000, and your third bid was 36,000, you may have to ask yourself some questions like, why, did the guy miss something or whatever, or were the other 2 trying to rip me off? So just be careful. If you don't know how to review the bids and all that, go hire an expert to help you. Say, hey, I got these 3 bids. Can you look at it and help me? I do that all the time for people, mainly for my clients, but I do, get calls from people to review and then come to find out that the bids were not apples and apples, they're apples, oranges, and a lemon, right? So just, be aware of these things. Okay, we got any other questions, Martin?
Yeah, we do. Let me give you this one, and then I think we've got one on Facebook. But the next one here that came in was it says, I live on the mountain and the ground floor is below grade. Every time there's a heavy rain, moisture comes through my walls. I painted the walls over 4 times and nothing seems to work. Can you help me?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. It says, I live on the mountain and the ground floor is below grade. Every time there's a heavy rain, moisture comes through my walls. I painted the walls over 4 times and nothing seems to work. Can you help me? Okay.
The last situation I had was a parking deck, which is harder to fix, but then I had a house in Hawaiiloa Ridge, and they had a below grade, one section of the house was below grade, and they had, the interior was painted white, but then we went into one room and it was green. And I said, oh, you like green? He says, no, we didn't have it painted. So I go closer and there was moss and algae growing on the wall. So unfortunately, I told the guy, you could try, one option would be to remove down to bare concrete, what's there on the inside, and apply a sealer, but this is the wrong side to work on, okay? You have to, the right way to do it is you have to go on the outside and excavate and remove all the dirt piling against your wall, clean the wall, and then apply waterproofing, go all the way down to the footing. And man, that's expensive. I think he got a quote for like $150,000 to do that. But that's more guaranteed than trying to fix it from the inside, because when you fix it from the inside, water's still going through your wall. It's just not coming out on the inside. So that's probably what you need to do. I would try the first option, which is way cheaper, right? And maybe you try to paint it, but you can't just use regular paint. You have to use a waterproofing system. So up the game, instead of just painting it, you got to go with a commercial grade system, waterproofing, and you got to ask these companies that sell the waterproofing to shopping centers and condo buildings and all that. It's different from the material that you buy at your local hardware store. Okay, so just, it's going to cost way more, but that's what you want to do. You need to do that to protect your house. So unfortunately, it may be expensive to do it the right way if the first option doesn't work. Now, I've seen when we excavated some other property, and there was waterproofing initially, but what happened was all these rocks started scraping the waterproofing membrane. And over the years, the pressure causes these rocks to scrape the waterproofing. So then there were failures. So that's why we had to, do the whole excavation. In some cases, you can't get equipment there, because of the situation. So situations where we have to knock sections of a wall to get our heavy equipment in there to excavate below grade. So sometimes that just needs to be done. So that's what you do. If you need more help, reach out and I can tell you who to contact.
Okay, thanks, Lance. Let me jump to this Facebook question here. It asks, can you build residence in a flood impact zone, and what variances would you need in order to get by the zoning? I'm not sure, if that's a waterproofing item, but you take all questions.
Yeah, you can build a houseboat. How about that? First of all, there's FEMA maps, okay, that you have to go look at, because they changed the designations of flood zones. They actually expanded. I've seen properties that aren't even in a flood zone. Well, it's away from any flood, right? But it's on the FEMA designated flood zone. It's on the, once it's on the map, you're kind of stuck. And these are houses that would be near a stream. If the stream overflows, then it's considered a flood zone, right? So or a marsh or whatever. So just be careful. But what was the specific question? How to build in that zone?
Let me just reread it for you. It's can you build residence in a flood impact zone, and what variances would you need in order to get by the zoning?
Okay, now it's a zoning issue. You would have to, I mean, if you're from Hawaii, you got to check with the zoning department at DPP, and there's a whole bunch of regulations. Sometimes you can't get a building permit if it's in a flood zone. But let's say you can, then there's certain things that you got to do, such as if you're in a zone like near the ocean, you cannot just build your house on grade, you have to raise it up. So there's all these different requirements. So I would check with the DPP, the zoning and land use division, and see what information you can get. If you don't know, if you get stuck, just reach back out and I can direct you to the right departments to call. So I'm not sure whether your property is in a ocean area or located far back in a mountain, but still subject to flood. So, I'm not sure of all the details. So Martha, did you see, there's somebody posted in the chat on Zoom?
Let me see. No, I didn't see any other. Oh, no, I've got one more actually. Yeah. Another question here is that, are you still ready for questions?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, this one is, it says, during a recent Spalding inspection of my apartment building, the contractor said I need to waterproof my walkways and stairs. Is that true, or is the contractor just trying to make money doing extra work that's not really needed? My building is 65 years old, and from when it was built, had bare concrete in these areas. Sounds like a bare concrete question again.
Okay, so if you're in Hawaii, I bet you your apartment building is located in Waipahu, Kalihi, Makiki, or Makali or Waikiki. If I'm wrong, I'll take you to lunch. But if you're, like I mentioned before, if you don't have any waterproofing, and there's people that don't pay for waterproofing system, but actually they use deck paint, that's better than nothing. So I would not recommend bare concrete, because it's going to lead to spalling, concrete cracking, and all that. So my opinion is that the contractor is giving you the right advice. He's not trying to make more money by coming up with extra work. So if you need a second opinion, then don't talk to a contractor. Talk to a consultant, a building expert, a construction manager, somebody like me that's not interested. I'm not making money doing work for you. Okay, so I call it like it is, and I say, yeah, you're gonna need to waterproof, because that way your building is going to last longer. Of course, it's more expensive than not doing anything, but look at all these years that you've gotten away with it. So now it's time to catch up. So in this case, the contractor is correct, and I would agree with the contractor. So interesting questions. So Martin, can you read in the chat?
And you're talking Facebook chat or Zoom?
No, the Zoom chat.
See, I don't see anything in the Zoom. Not right now, and other than what we've kind of gone over, yeah. So
Did you read the messages in the chat? Was that a question you asked already?
yeah.
Let me see.
I've been looking at the
Oh, okay,
live
that's
chat.
okay. I
The
got
live
it.
chat.
I don't know why you couldn't get it, but
okay.
okay.
Well,
The question is, would you give pointers on lanai deck on the south side, oceanfront, with 1 1/8 tongue and groove plywood and elastomeric coating that was done about 10 years ago and it's leaking? It's a single family and is leaking. Okay, so the lanai deck, it's made out of plywood. Okay, so in this case, you're gonna have to probably remove the elastomeric coating to bare wood. I don't think you can, unless there's a way to patch it. But somebody that's a specialist gonna have to look at it, because if they're able to patch it, then they're gonna have to cut out the areas that are failed and patch it and do a whole new coating over everything. But hopefully the wood is not rotted. If the wood's rotted or, you know, ocean front weathered, then that's another problem. Then you're gonna have to replace the wood. So it's not easy working on oceanfront property, but that's, thanks for the question. Another one is a small crack line. Okay, so if you have a crack, that crack has to be routed out, caulked, and then you waterproof over that, either with the elastomeric coating they use or some other coating. And then we've got two more. What store would be selling the more dependable waterproofing material for plywood deck? You can go to, and this person is in Hawaii, so you can go to All Weather Surfaces, AWS in Halava. You can also reach out to HPM out in Kapolei, I think. But send me an email, or if you need more information. So you got to be sure that you tell them that you have a wood deck, because there's not too many products that are good for wood deck. Although every single manufacturer says yes, we can, you know, you can use our product for wood deck. I've tried like 6-7 different products on wood decks, and they don't last too long. They start failing within, you know, before 5 years. So be careful. I would even research products like on the mainland, talk to manufacturers and tell them to send you their data sheets and brochures and all that, and you can compare. Also, one other question: what product would be good for below ground wall to waterproof on a moss rock wall? There's different kind of products. I've seen higher grade mastic, there's bentonite, there's a whole number of different types of products that you can use, and each contractor may have different methods. If you're going to do it yourself, good luck. I would rather hire a contractor. Yeah, thanks for asking. But you need to be sure that the contractor is experienced in below grade waterproofing. Okay, that's very important. If they're just a general contractor and they don't specialize in that, then they may not be the right contractor for the job. So, Martin, we got any other questions on Zoom or?
I haven't seen any more come in from Zoom or on the Facebook. But I
Oh,
think I'm
okay.
sorry I missed it. Yeah, I was looking at the chat. And
Yeah, it was,
yeah,
I made a
this was on the
mistake.
Q&A. Yeah,
It
it was on
wasn't the
the Q&A.
chat, it was a Q&A.
Q&A. Yeah. I
Yeah,
caught
yeah.
it after. Sorry, I
Hey,
missed
you're
it.
supposed to be doing your job. You're
I
sleeping on
know.
the
I'm
job.
watching all these different monitors and stuff, trying to figure it.
What
Sorry,
about on Facebook? We got any comments or questions on Facebook before we
Uh,
sign off?
No, just had that question on that residence. I think probably want to touch base with them on that flood zone thing, because it looks like it's you need a little bit more info.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if we don't have any other questions, we thank you for attending, whether you're on Zoom or Facebook Live. It's always fun to do these. We ask you to sign up for the next webinars coming up. Stay tuned, hang in with us. You learn a lot of information, and you know, best of all, it's free, right? We're not charging. I actually do webinars for mainland companies that they charge anywhere from $50 to $350 a person. So consider yourself lucky, and you know, free is always good, right, Martin?
Always good. Free is the best.
Okay, good. So we can sign off on Facebook and then on Zoom. And once again, thank you for attending. And we hope to see you at the next webinar, which is in a couple of weeks. Oh, let me put this plug in. If you're a small business owner, an entrepreneur, and you want more information on social media marketing and marketing in general in this digital world, we have another webinar series called Ask Marketing Experts. And we talk about social media marketing, social media posting, email marketing, and all that. So go to our website, askmarketingexperts.now.site. And if you're interested, sign up for that. We give away free targeted business leads and free books and free digital business cards. And Martin may throw in a free lunch too if he feels good. I don't know, but check us out. So once again, thanks for attending, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Aloha. Did you see my cat? He's trying to get in on the action.